Be tiny, but mosquitoes are a massive problem, especially during rainy season. Now mosquito control is turning to fish to aid their efforts.
When you think of fighting mosquitoes, you probably imagine sprays, traps, or high-tech gadgets. But in Texas, officials tried something completely different. They dumped thousands of tiny fish into ponds. At first, people laughed. Fish versus mosquitoes? Will that even work? Yet what happened next left everyone amazed. Could those tiny mosquito fish really thrive, slash mosquito numbers, and change the way we think about pest control? Could such a simple solution really be that effective? The Texas Mosquitofish Project. Mosquitoes are more than just annoying, buzzing pests. They are carriers of dangerous diseases like West Nile virus, Zika, and dengue fever. In Texas, with its warm climate, long summers, and abundance of ponds, rivers, and stagnant water, mosquitoes can become a serious problem. Traditional methods like insecticides and chemical sprays were being used, but they had their limitations. Chemicals can harm other wildlife, contaminate water sources, and mosquitoes can develop resistance over time. Local authorities needed a creative, cost-effective, and environmentally friendly solution. Enter the mosquito fish, or Gambusia affinis. These tiny fish are voracious consumers of mosquito larvae and have been used in water bodies around the world for biological mosquito control. Texas officials decided to implement a large-scale project, releasing thousands of mosquito fish into ponds, lakes, and irrigation canals to naturally reduce mosquito populations. At first glance, the idea seemed simple, but in reality, it involved careful planning, monitoring, and collaboration between multiple agencies. The project began by identifying areas with the highest mosquito activity. These were typically shallow ponds, drainage ditches, and man-made reservoirs where water tended to stagnate during the hot Texas summers. Biologists studied these sites to ensure they were suitable for mosquito fish survival. Factors such as water temperature, pH levels, oxygen content, and presence of predators had to be considered. The fish needed the right conditions to thrive, reproduce, and maintain consistent mosquito control over time. Once the sites were approved, thousands of mosquito fish were carefully introduced into the waters. They weren't dumped in all at once. Releases were staged to maximize survival rates and minimize stress on the fish. Monitoring equipment and regular inspections were set up to track both mosquito larvae populations and the health of the mosquito fish. Officials also kept an eye on other aquatic species to ensure the balance of the ecosystem wasn't disrupted. At the start, the project faced skepticism. Locals joked about fish versus mosquitoes as if it were a children's cartoon. News outlets ran headlines highlighting the absurdity of Texas dumping tiny fish into ponds, and some social media posts mocked the effort. After all, it seemed like a small-scale, almost whimsical solution to a problem that had plagued humans for centuries. Critics wondered whether the mosquito fish could survive the harsh Texas heat, avoid predators, and make any noticeable dent in mosquito populations. Despite the mockery, project managers pressed on. They educated the public about the purpose of the fish and how biological control works. Unlike chemical sprays that affect everything in the water, mosquito fish target mosquito larvae directly. By consuming the larvae before they mature, the fish naturally limit the mosquito population. This approach not only reduces human exposure to dangerous chemicals, but also encourages a balanced, self-sustaining ecosystem. The project also required coordination between state agencies, local municipalities, and private landowners. Some ponds were on private property, and access had to be negotiated. In addition, environmental regulations required careful documentation to ensure that releasing non-native species didn't inadvertently harm native wildlife. While mosquito fish are technically native to parts of the southern United States, introducing them into specific ponds still required permits and oversight. Public engagement became a key part of the project's success. Community meetings, demonstrations, and educational campaigns helped people understand why thousands of tiny fish were suddenly appearing in ponds near their homes. Officials explained that the fish are harmless to humans, don't bite, and won't overrun the ponds. In fact, they actively help reduce the need for chemical interventions, making local water bodies safer for everyone. Over time, monitoring data started to show promising results. Mosquito larvae counts dropped significantly in areas where mosquitofish were established. The fish adapted quickly to their new environments, reproducing rapidly and maintaining healthy populations throughout the summer months. Even skeptics began to notice the change, realizing that this simple solution was quietly but effectively solving a long-standing problem. The Texas Mosquitofish Project also demonstrated an important principle in ecological management. Small interventions can have big impacts when applied thoughtfully. By using a species naturally adapted to consume mosquito larvae, officials were able to control pest populations without resorting to widespread chemical spraying. The fish did what chemicals could do, but in a more sustainable and environmentally friendly way. Interestingly, the project also highlighted the importance of observation and adaptive management. Scientists regularly checked water quality, fish survival, and mosquito activity. When problems arose, such as temporary die-offs due to extreme heat or unexpected predation, they adjusted the release schedule or provided additional support to ensure the fish population remained robust. This hands-on, attentive approach was crucial to the project's overall effectiveness. Yes, Texas took a bold, unconventional approach to a persistent problem. By releasing thousands of tiny fish into carefully chosen ponds, the state created a natural, sustainable way to control mosquitoes. What seemed like a small, almost whimsical experiment turned into an unexpectedly effective project, changing the way people think about pest control, public health, and ecological balance. But first, why are mosquitoes such a big problem in Texas, and what's at stake if they aren't controlled? Why solving the problem matters. Mosquitoes are more than just annoying pests in Texas. They're a serious public health concern. With the state's hot summers, frequent rainfall, and abundance of standing water in ponds, ditches, and reservoirs, mosquitoes thrive almost year-round. For residents, this isn't just a nuisance, it's a potential threat. Several mosquito-borne diseases have been reported across Texas, ranging from mild illnesses to serious health risks, making mosquito control a top priority for communities and public health officials alike. One of the most well-known mosquito-borne threats in Texas is the West Nile virus. First detected in the U.S. in 1999, it has since become endemic in many states, including Texas. The virus is transmitted through mosquito bites and can cause flu-like symptoms, fevers, body aches, and, in severe cases, neurological problems like encephalitis or meningitis. Each year, hundreds of Texans are infected, and a small percentage experience serious complications or even death. The presence of West Nile virus makes even small ponds a potential source of disease transmission, highlighting the importance of effective mosquito control. Another concern is St. Louis encephalitis, a less common but potentially severe disease also spread by mosquitoes. Symptoms can range from mild fever and headache to serious neurological complications. Although outbreaks are rarer than West Nile, they remind public health officials that mosquitoes are not just a seasonal annoyance, they are a persistent vector for disease. Then there's dengue fever and Zika virus, both transmitted by Aedes mosquitoes. While less widespread in Texas compared to tropical regions, there have been localized outbreaks in the southern parts of the state. Dengue can cause high fever, severe joint and muscle pain, and in rare cases, hemorrhagic complications. Zika gained international attention a few years ago due to its connection with birth defects, making even minor mosquito infestations a serious concern for families with pregnant members. The risk of these diseases creates a pressing need for effective mosquito management. Traditional approaches, like spraying insecticides, can reduce mosquito populations temporarily, but come with limitations. Chemical treatments are expensive, require repeated application, and may harm beneficial insects, fish, and other wildlife. Furthermore, mosquitoes can develop resistance to pesticides over time, making these methods less reliable in the long run. Local governments and public health agencies have explored alternative approaches, and that's where biological control comes in. Using natural predators such as mosquitofish provides a targeted, environmentally friendly way to reduce mosquito populations without the negative side effects of chemicals. By addressing the root of the problem, mosquito larvae in stagnant water, Texas officials found a solution that could work year after year, sustainably and safely. The human impact of mosquito-borne diseases also cannot be underestimated. Beyond the immediate health risks, mosquito outbreaks affect daily life. People avoid outdoor activities. Schools limit recess, and families are forced to stay indoors during warm months. For communities in rural areas, where ponds and irrigation systems are essential to farming and livestock, mosquitoes can disrupt work and reduce productivity. The need to protect public health while maintaining quality of life has made mosquito management a priority in Texas for decades. Economically, mosquito-borne diseases carry a hidden cost. Hospital visits, medical treatments, public health campaigns, and mosquito control efforts strain local budgets. Tourists and outdoor recreational areas may also be affected when mosquitoes become unbearable, which can indirectly impact local economies. A sustainable, effective solution like the Mosquitofish project helps reduce these costs while providing long-term benefits to both humans and wildlife. In many ways, the Texas mosquito problem reflects a larger global challenge: how to control disease vectors without damaging the environment. Mosquitoes are resilient and adaptable, thriving in environments created by humans, such as retention ponds, irrigation systems, and even backyard water features. This makes controlling them not just a matter of spraying chemicals, but finding a strategy that balances human needs, public health, and ecological preservation. Finally, the presence of mosquito-borne diseases underscores why the Mosquitofish project was so crucial. By naturally reducing mosquito populations, the fish didn't just make outdoor life more pleasant, they directly helped protect residents from serious illnesses. It's a rare example of a small, low-tech solution addressing a problem with real, measurable health impacts. In Texas, the fight against mosquitoes isn't just about comfort. It's about safety, well-being, and the long-term health of communities. From West Nile virus to occasional dengue outbreaks, the stakes are high. This makes the success of innovative, environmentally friendly approaches, like introducing Mosquitofish, not just a novelty, but a vital public health achievement. With that said, let's take a closer look at why mosquitofish are so effective and how they quietly become heroes of the ecosystem. Mosquitofish to the rescue. At first glance, mosquitofish might not look like much. They're tiny, barely a few inches long, and often overlooked in ponds filled with bigger, flashier creatures. But don't let their size fool you. These little fish are nature's built-in mosquito control team. Texas officials weren't just releasing random creatures, they picked a species perfectly suited to the job. Mosquitofish are natural predators of mosquito larvae. From the moment they hatch, these fish hunt tiny larvae relentlessly, consuming dozens every day. They reproduce fast, too, which is key for long-term mosquito management. A few mosquitofish can quickly grow into a thriving population that keeps larvae numbers in check. Unlike chemical sprays, which can harm other wildlife or contaminate water, mosquitofish target mosquitoes specifically, a win-win for humans and the environment. One fascinating fact about mosquitofish is how adaptable they are. They survive in a variety of water conditions, from shallow ponds to slow-moving streams. They tolerate temperature changes and low oxygen levels better than many fish, which makes them ideal for the unpredictable environments of Texas ponds. This adaptability means they can maintain their population without constant human intervention, quietly doing their work behind the scenes. Beyond mosquito control, mosquitofish play an important role in local ecosystems. They're part of a food chain that supports birds, amphibians, and larger fish. By keeping mosquito populations in check, they reduce the number of bites humans experience and help control potential disease outbreaks. Their presence can even benefit other wildlife. Fewer mosquitoes mean fewer disease vectors for animals that share the same environment. Some critics worry that introducing non-native species can disrupt ecosystems, and that's a valid concern. In Texas, mosquitofish are actually native to the southern U.S., but officials still monitored their impact carefully. They ensured the fish didn't outcompete other important species or cause unintended harm. The result? A balance where mosquitofish do their job without wreaking havoc, a delicate but successful intervention. Another surprising benefit of mosquitofish is their efficiency. Unlike chemical sprays, which have to be reapplied and often have short-term effects, Mosquitofish are self-sustaining. Once established, they continue eating larvae daily, year after year. This means communities save money, reduce chemical usage, and enjoy long-term mosquito control without constant effort. Mosquitofish also teach us a lesson about thinking small. Sometimes the most effective solutions aren't the most complex or expensive. A tiny fish, applied in the right place and in the right numbers, can solve a big problem more effectively than chemicals, machines, or expensive technology. It's a reminder that nature often has the answers, if we're willing to listen. Their impact isn't just ecological, it's educational too. Children, students, and curious locals, observing mosquitofish at work, gain first-hand understanding of predator-prey dynamics, food chains, and ecosystem balance. They see how a tiny organism can influence the health and safety of humans, animals, and plants alike. That kind of lesson can't be taught in a classroom alone. It's something you see, observe, and respect. Mosquitofish aren't just a tool. They're an example of efficiency, adaptability, and sustainability. They demonstrate how humans can work with nature rather than against it. In Texas, the success of mosquitofish shows that small, well-targeted interventions can have big effects. A few inches of fish can translate to miles of relief from itchy bites and reduced disease risk. And there's a bigger takeaway here. When we see a natural solution like mosquitofish succeed, it encourages people to think differently about environmental problems. Instead of automatically reaching for chemicals or technology, it shows the value of observing ecosystems, understanding species interactions, and letting nature handle what it does best. That mindset can apply to many areas, from gardening to urban planning to wildlife conservation. The unbelievable success of the Mosquitofish Project. When Texas first released thousands of mosquitofish into ponds, canals, and reservoirs, the public reaction was a mix of amusement, skepticism, and outright disbelief. Social media posts joked about tiny fish fighting giant mosquitoes, while some local news outlets ran headlines questioning the effectiveness of such a low-tech solution. But as the months went by, something remarkable happened. The fish didn't just survive, they thrived, and their impact was undeniable. Field reports began showing a dramatic reduction in mosquito larvae in the monitored ponds. Areas that were once buzzing with mosquitoes became noticeably calmer. Residents reported fewer bites, more enjoyable evenings outdoors, and even a sense of relief that came from knowing these ponds were now naturally controlled. The results were simple but powerful. The mosquitofish were performing exactly as intended. Biologists tracking the project were equally impressed. Mosquitofish reproduced rapidly in the new environments, establishing self-sustaining populations that didn't require constant intervention. Their adaptability allowed them to survive Texas's hot summers, fluctuating water levels, and occasional predation by birds or other wildlife. By the end of the first season, the mosquitofish population had increased far beyond the initial release numbers, creating a thriving natural mosquito control system. One of the most surprising aspects of the project was how well the fish integrated into existing ecosystems. Initial fears that mosquitofish might outcompete native species or disrupt local wildlife were largely unfounded in the monitored areas. By targeting mosquito larvae, they actually reduced competition for smaller aquatic insects and improved conditions for amphibians like frogs, which feed on similar prey. In a way, the project enhanced the natural balance rather than disrupting it. Local authorities were quick to note the practical benefits as well. With fewer mosquitoes, residents were less likely to contract mosquito-borne diseases. Fewer chemical sprays were needed, which saved money and reduced environmental contamination. Maintenance efforts became more manageable, as a natural predator was now doing much of the work for them. In short, the mosquitofish created a cost-effective, sustainable solution that exceeded all expectations. The success didn't stop at biology, it also had an unexpected social impact. Initially mocked for its simplicity, the project became a source of local pride once results were visible. Community members who had doubted the idea now spoke about it with enthusiasm, sharing stories of their outdoor activities without the constant annoyance of mosquitoes. Public perception shifted, turning a once laughable plan into a celebrated example of smart, ecological problem-solving. Experts studying the Texas project highlighted another key factor in its success: careful planning and monitoring. This wasn't a reckless experiment. It was a deliberate, scientifically informed effort. By selecting appropriate ponds, assessing water quality, and staging releases, officials ensured that the mosquitofish could thrive and maximize their effectiveness. It was a lesson in precision and patience. Even a simple solution needs thoughtful execution to work at scale. Perhaps the most surprising element wasn't just the effectiveness of the mosquitofish, but how quickly the results became noticeable. In many ponds, mosquito larvae numbers dropped within weeks of the fish release. Residents saw measurable changes in their backyards, parks, and recreational areas. The tiny fish, once underestimated, had quietly transformed the landscape of local mosquito control. The Texas Mosquitofish project also inspired other communities to reconsider how they handle pests. Sometimes, the answer lies in working with nature, not against it. This idea, simple as it sounds, was a revelation for many public health officials and environmentalists. In addition to direct mosquito control, the project encouraged a broader conversation about sustainability and innovation. People began to ask, what other problems could be solved using natural methods instead of chemicals or technology? Could ponds, wetlands, and even urban water features benefit from similar ecological approaches? The Texas Mosquitofish Initiative became a small but influential case study in demonstrating that biology, when understood and applied correctly, can outperform even the most high-tech solutions. By the end of the project's first full cycle, Texas had achieved more than just fewer mosquitoes. The mosquitofish had become a symbol of effective, low-cost, and environmentally friendly problem-solving. The success of the Texas Mosquitofish project reflects a broader lesson. Innovation doesn't always require complexity. Sometimes the most effective solutions are the ones we overlook, the ones that seem almost too small to matter. The tiny mosquitofish proved that when carefully applied, nature itself can be the ultimate problem solver, and that even the most skeptical observers might be surprised by what a few inches of fish can achieve. When tiny fish beat high-tech gadgets, chemical sprays, automated traps, drones buzzing over neighborhoods, or even genetically modified mosquitoes come to mind, when most people think about mosquito control, images of high-tech solutions come to mind. These tools are expensive, complicated, and often have unintended consequences. But the Texas Mosquitofish project shows that sometimes the simplest solution is also the most effective. In this case, a few inches of fish in the right pond accomplished what drones, chemicals, and traps could not. Chemical sprays have been a staple of mosquito control for decades. They work fast, killing larvae and adult mosquitoes, but they come with obvious downsides. Sprays often harm other creatures in the water, from frogs and insects to birds that rely on the aquatic food chain. Over time, mosquitoes can also develop resistance, meaning the chemicals become less effective, a problem requiring stronger, potentially more toxic sprays. While chemical methods provide quick results, they rarely offer a long-term solution, and repeated spraying can be costly. High-tech options aren't immune to problems either. Traps designed to lure and capture mosquitoes can work locally, but they require maintenance, electricity, and careful placement to be effective. Drones and surveillance systems may help track mosquito populations, but they don't reduce larvae themselves. Even the experimental release of genetically modified mosquitoes, while promising in some cases, is expensive, controversial, and far from foolproof. Enter the mosquitofish. Low-tech, inexpensive, and remarkably efficient. With a tiny appetite for mosquito larvae, these fish reproduce rapidly, maintain their population year-round, and naturally regulate the ecosystem. No batteries, no chemicals, no complex devices, just a small fish doing its job quietly, day after day. The beauty is in the simplicity. Nature itself provides the solution, if humans are willing to collaborate rather than dominate. For young audiences, this is almost like an eco-friendly hack. Instead of spending money on sprays, gadgets, or high-tech devices, a community can introduce mosquitofish and let biology handle the heavy lifting. It's a reminder that solutions don't always need to be flashy or futuristic. Sometimes, the best answer has been right in front of us, swimming quietly in the pond. With mosquito fish, once populations are established, ongoing maintenance is minimal. They self-sustain, reproducing naturally and keeping mosquito numbers in check without further human intervention. In contrast, chemicals need constant reapplication, and traps or drones require regular monitoring. From a cost-benefit perspective, the fish win hands down, and they do it without polluting the environment. There's also a broader lesson here about perspective. People often assume that high-tech is inherently superior. We think bigger gadgets, expensive equipment, and complex systems will outperform simple solutions. Yet, the Mosquitofish project challenges that assumption. In many cases, working with nature, understanding ecosystems, predator-prey relationships, and natural behaviors can produce better results than any technology ever could. This is not to say that technology has no place in mosquito control. Surveillance systems, predictive models, and mapping tools can help identify problem areas and track disease outbreaks. But when it comes to direct long-term mosquito reduction, low-tech biological solutions like Mosquitofish often outperform high-tech interventions in both efficiency and cost. Finally, the Mosquitofish story inspires a mindset shift. It encourages us to think creatively, to consider small, simple, and natural solutions alongside modern technology. For anyone interested in DIY, eco-friendly projects, or sustainable living, it's a vivid example that low-tech solutions can be surprisingly powerful. A pond with a few tiny fish can be more effective than a high-tech lab experiment, and that's a lesson worth sharing. In Texas, the fish didn't just survive, they excelled, quietly outperforming human inventions designed to do the same job. Their success demonstrates that sometimes the low-tech approach is smarter, cheaper, and more sustainable than the most advanced gadgets we can dream up. And maybe, just maybe, it makes us wonder what other problems nature could solve if we just let it. And Texas wasn't the only place to experiment with mosquito fish. Other states and countries have taken similar approaches with their own surprising results. Similar projects in other states and countries. The Texas Mosquitofish project may have grabbed headlines, but it's far from the only place where these tiny fish have been deployed. Across the United States and even around the world, communities have recognized the value of using mosquito fish as natural mosquito control. While each project has its own challenges and results, the underlying principle remains the same. A small predator can make a huge difference. Take Florida, for example. With its warm climate and abundance of stagnant water, the state faces a constant battle against mosquitoes and the diseases they carry, including West Nile virus and Eastern equine encephalitis. Similar to Texas, Florida's local authorities began introducing mosquitofish into ponds, drainage ditches, and stormwater retention areas. The results were striking. Mosquito larvae counts dropped dramatically in monitored areas, reducing the need for chemical interventions. Communities reported a noticeable decrease in mosquito bites during the summer months, and the fish populations established themselves quickly, proving the method's sustainability. California has also experimented with mosquitofish, particularly in regions prone to West Nile virus outbreaks. In urban and suburban areas, the fish were introduced into small ponds, artificial wetlands, and irrigation canals. Here, the challenge was slightly different. California's water bodies often fluctuated due to droughts and water management practices. Still, mosquito fish adapted well, surviving periods of low water and maintaining sufficient populations to keep mosquito larvae under control. The project demonstrated that even in regions with variable conditions, the fish could remain effective. Internationally, mosquito fish have been used in places like Australia, Southeast Asia, and parts of Africa. In Queensland, Australia, mosquito fish were introduced to rice paddies and irrigation canals to reduce mosquito-borne diseases like Ross River virus. In Southeast Asia, the fish were deployed in urban and rural areas to combat dengue fever. In each case, results mirrored what was seen in the US: fewer mosquito larvae, reduced disease risk, and minimal ecological disruption when the program was carefully monitored. One notable example comes from Japan, where mosquito fish were introduced into rice fields to naturally control mosquito populations without relying on pesticides. Farmers reported healthier crops and fewer pests, and local ecosystems remained stable. Communities appreciated that they could reduce chemical usage while still protecting public health, an important factor for areas concerned with sustainable agriculture and environmental preservation. The success of these projects often depends on monitoring and management. Simply releasing the fish isn't always enough. Officials must ensure that water conditions are suitable, that mosquitofish populations can reproduce effectively, and that native species aren't negatively impacted. In some regions, natural predators or extreme environmental conditions can temporarily reduce fish populations, requiring additional releases or adjustments. Yet even with these challenges, the overall outcomes are consistently positive. Interestingly, comparing different regions shows how adaptable mosquitofish are. From Texas to Japan, from urban ponds to rice paddies, they thrive in diverse environments. Their resilience makes them a reliable solution for many communities, even those facing harsh conditions like high temperatures, fluctuating water levels, or predation pressures. This adaptability is one reason the Texas project was so successful. Officials had faith that the fish could handle the unique environmental conditions of their ponds. Another takeaway from looking at international examples is the importance of education and community involvement. In Florida, California, and Australia, residents were initially skeptical, much like in Texas. However, outreach programs, public demonstrations, and educational campaigns helped people understand the role of mosquitofish. Communities began to take pride in the project, reporting results and encouraging others to adopt similar strategies. Public engagement often proves as crucial as the biological intervention itself. Beyond mosquito control, these global projects illustrate a bigger principle. Nature often provides the tools to solve human problems if we're willing to use them responsibly. Mosquito fish are not a miracle cure, nor are they without limitations. But their consistent success across states and countries demonstrates that simple natural solutions can outperform expensive or chemical-heavy alternatives. Some challenges remain. In regions where mosquitofish are not native, there is always the risk of unintended ecological consequences. Careful monitoring, scientific guidance, and adaptive management are essential to prevent overpopulation or disruption of local species. Despite these challenges, the benefits frequently outweigh the risks, especially in areas struggling with mosquito-borne diseases. From Florida to Japan, these tiny fish have proven their worth, reducing mosquito populations, minimizing disease risk, and providing an environmentally friendly alternative to chemicals. What started as a mocked experiment in Texas is now part of a larger story. The global success of a simple, effective, and surprisingly powerful solution. Want to try mosquitofish for a DIY project? Stay bite-free and in the know. Hit subscribe for more surprising stories from nature.